We begin the 20th chapter, in one word, levadoi, alone. One alone, single and unique. So where are we? Chapter 18 began a new section in Tanya to understand what it means, ava musateris, hidden love, oxymoron. Kind of love is this that is hidden, actually is a love part of our soul, an expression of our soul that comes from Chachma, as we explained. That it is like a flame that wants to sort of be released from the wick and to be absorbed in a higher place in its source, to be absorbed in there, to lose its identity. That's a metaphor to understand the uniqueness of this soul, that its desire is not self-fulfillment, is not to become great, not to become even holy, not even to become holy, but to kind of lose its identity in its source. It's a very unusual idea, because everything wants to retain its identity. Everything wants to be what it is. We don't want to change. Nothing changes unless there's an external force that forces it. Okay, even us, think about it. When do we change? Excuse me. Hello? Oh, thank you. Very kind. Thank you. Sorry. Even think about ourselves. Do we really want to change? We're kind of forced to change at times, right? Because we hurt somebody's feelings, and we don't want to change. You change. You hurt, your feelings are hurt. Well, you're the problem. Not me. I'm not changing. I'm okay with myself. But then what happens is, if that person matters to us, maybe we do feel compelled to change. But that's all external again. And that's even spiritual change. Here I'm talking about not so much spiritual change, but change whatever it is in your life. Anything of your life or anything of this world. So that's why the nature of this soul, that it wants to change its dynamic and wants to rip away from the wick, to bounce off the wick that is holding it down, which the metaphor is the body that's holding down this soul, and it wants to be bound up with God. Why? Just because. Not because it's going to have something out of it, because that happens to be its nature. And where does this express itself? So we explained it expresses itself mostly when it's about giving up your life, because you're a test of faith. And for the majority, throughout the last 2,000 years, Jews gave up their lives rather than accept another faith, rather than be cutting off from their connection to their identity to God. That's what we learned. So now the issue is, wonderful. Oh, that's what it's about, to die for God? All right. How about living? How are we supposed to live with this? And this is where we're going. How can we make this notion that the soul desires to be bound up, that it's ready to give up its life, its very life, rather than to lose its connection? So what does it mean to live with? So we're going to go through now a lengthy subject of understanding the unity of God. And by understanding the unity of God, we'll understand this question, how we can, so to speak, live with this notion rather than merely die with it. Right? I don't think we want to do that. Sure we don't. Right? So that's where we're going. And today it's actually a short class. Um, and we are going to go through a lengthy debate, or I don't know if debate is the right word, but a discussion on this topic to appreciate what it means, the unity of God. But before that, so it's well known, says the Alter Rebbe, that the positive commandments to believe in God's unity and the admonition against idolatry make up the first two of the Ten Commandments, right? I am the Lord your God means to believe in the unity of God, and you shall have no other gods is the negative commandment, right? Furthermore, it's brought down that I am the Lord your God, which is a positive statement, is actually including all of the 248 positive commandments of the Torah. And there shall be no other gods before me, which is a negative commandment, a prohibition. It includes the 365 prohibitions of the Torah, which of course the two together equals 613 commandments of the Torah. And that's why at Mount Sinai people make a mistake thinking that we heard all 10 commandments, but really what we heard is only the first two commandments. Again, I'm the Lord your God, and there should be no other, who took you out of the land of Egypt, and there should be no other gods before me, and so on, right? We heard them directly from God. And as our sages say, because those two are a sum total of all of the commandments, the entire Torah. Therefore, that sense was given to us. Therefore, just as one's love will motivate a person to obey these two commandments, even at the expense of giving up their life, can also serve, therefore, according to this, that we can observe and be connected to God throughout all of the commandments. But obviously we need to understand, how is this so? We need to elucidate, to understand clearly this idea of the unity of God. How could it be, the act of loving kindness is about the unity of God, or honoring your parents is about the unity of God. As a matter of fact, the Midrash says, interestingly, that these first two commandments are like a king who comes into, conquers a nation, and he says, first accept me as your king, and then I will give you commandments that you need to follow. So likewise, God says, the first two commandments, accept me as your king. I'm the Lord your God, right? I'm your God and no other gods. And then I can give you commandments. Then I can give you, the dictates on how the nation needs to lead itself. So they seem to be, accepting as God is God, and then there's commandments. But here we're making a statement that no, all of the commandments are an expression of the first two commandments. How so? How do we understand that? So what we need to understand is this concept of the unity of God. That God is one and unique. What does that mean? So there's, common misconception that one and unique means, well, I believe in God. I don't believe in Zeus. There's only one God. And Zeus ain't it. The God of, the God of the Jews, or God of the Torah, whatever you want to call it, right? The one and unique God. There's something more to this. That's a very simplistic understanding. So, let's understand. So it says, and we say this in the prayers every morning, in daily service, you are he who was before the world was created, and you are he who is since the world was created. What does that mean? Before the world was created, what was there? Only God. Okay, you are he before the world was created. and you are the same He. Forget about, the fact that it's male over here is not important. I mean, it's important, but not in our context over here. And you are He after you created the world. Meaning to say, before you created the world, you're one and only. After you created the world, you know what? God is still one and only. Nothing else but Him. In other words, the lofty supernal worlds don't affect any change on Him, has no bearing on His unity, just as God is one, alone, single, and unique before He created the world. Likewise, He's one alone and single after He created the world. Meaning that the world is not before Him. It's absolutely non-existent.